be looking at nutrients that our plants need for growth. So this is a continuation of what we've learned about soil, but we're going to be summing up soil pretty soon. All right, so today you're going to be defining an essential element. You're going to be comparing and contrasting which elements are absolutely required for plants versus humans. Okay, and we're going to be looking at the periodic table. So I want you guys to think right now, what kinds of things do humans need for survival and why? Why do we need air, water, and food to survive? You guys think back to biology, you'll remember that water is extremely important. Our cells are made mostly of water. You'll remember that we require oxygen, humans require oxygen for cellular respiration, and that we need nutrients and energy to make the building blocks of our cells. So my question for you guys is, do plants need food? And if so, what is their food? Let's go ahead and answer that question. All right, so an essential element is an element that is required for a plant to complete its life cycle. What that means is that without this element, the plant will not be able to grow from seed all the way to mature plant producing more seeds. Okay, that element can't just be replaced by another element. You can't say, oh, there's not enough nitrogen, let's give it some calcium. It doesn't work that way. And an essential element needs to be an element that's required by many different plants, not just one kind of plant. So here we have a periodic table, and we are going to look at which of these elements are essential for plants and which are essential for humans. So what I want you guys to do, you have a question coming up, and I want you to list 3 of the elements that are on this periodic table that you would guess are required for plants. Okay, you can either write the symbol or the full name. Either one is fine. Okay. All right, so here are our essential elements for plants. Okay, take a look at that. And we're going to see what's essential for humans and how much overlap there is. So when I go on to the next slide, the essential elements for humans are going to come up. And if it's essential for humans and plants, they're going to combine and become a different color. If it's only essential for plants, it's going to stay yellow. So here are the essential elements for humans. I'm going to just go to the next one. We'll talk from there. All right, so here's all of them. If it's purple, it is essential for both plants and animals. If it's yellow, it's only essential for plants. And if it's blue, it's only essential for humans. So when I look at this, I notice that there are more essential elements for humans than plants. And I'm looking at some of the differences. Boron is required for plants, but not for humans. While and same as nickel, but there's a lot of elements that are essential for humans that are not essential for plants, like sodium, chromium, tin, selenium, iodine, and fluorine, and chromium and cobalt. I don't think I said those. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide, but there's going to be, never mind, I'll come back to that. All right, so we have all these elements that are required. We're looking at what's required for plants now. And I want you guys to think about where plants get these elements. So we're not going to look at all of them. Let's just pick a couple. I want you guys, you're going to be answering a couple questions on Ed Puzzle right now. And it's going to be asking you about each essential element and where you think the plant gets it from. So for instance, copper. Do plants get their copper that's required for living from the air, from the water, or the soil? Okay, right now this is like a pre-assessment thing. We haven't learned this, so just use your best background knowledge, and I want to see what you guys are thinking. All right, so you all answered a couple of questions about which elements are essential. And now we're going to look at the correct answers. So you will probably notice that all of these elements are found and get to plants from the soil. There are only a couple elements that come from water and only a couple that come from air. Some of you may have said a lot more come from the water, okay? But actually, most elements plants get from their soil, okay? The elements are oftentimes dissolved. The essential elements are going to be dissolved in the soil, and that's how the plants get them. There's only a couple that come from the air, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and those overlap with the ones that come from water, hydrogen and oxygen, but those also can be sourced from the soil. One thing I want you guys to notice specifically is nitrogen. A lot of you know that our atmosphere is the main gas is nitrogen. Yet, if you look, plants actually do not get their nitrogen from the air, they get it from the soil. So that's what we're going to look at next. Where does a corn plant obtain its oxygen? All right, so here we have a nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is pretty complicated. We are not going to go into it too much. What you guys need to know is that plants get their nitrogen from the soil, okay? And the nitrogen in the atmosphere is not the right kind of nitrogen for plants to take it in. So there's this whole process of the atmospheric nitrogen going into the soil, and then of bacteria, what we call fixing the nitrogen. They change it into a slightly different form so that the plants can take them in through their roots and use them. And those are called nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so in legumes like peas and beans, there are a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that actually live in their roots. So peas and beans have this bacteria living with them all the time. They use sugars from the plant to make their own energy, and then they help out the plant by taking nitrogen from the air and putting it into a form that those plants can use. Okay? So that's really helpful. The legumes are going to help having legumes, which have these bacteria, helps get the soil nitrogen to be useful for the plants. Not all plants have these nodes on their roots